much difference to the Czechoslovak economy. What's really helped it was the fact that Czechoslovakia issued its own currency.
The train, with what was left of the Russian Emperor's gold, continued on its way to the east, to Irkutsk. From Tirit station, it was short 13 crates, which had disappeared without a trace. The next stop on the Golden Train's route would prove fatal for Kolchak.
Is that so much as I was about to say that.
I'd like to go
yeah, but real quick, in the name of national security or Big Brother's watchful eye, what role do spies play today?
Wealthy British scion Zach Wilson, investment activist.
Markets, finance, scandal. Find out what's really happening to the global economy in Kaiser Report on RT.
The old name of this inconspicuous railway hub has a permanent place in the history of the gold of the Russian Empire. Today, the station is called Irkutsk II, but in January 1920 it bore the name Inokhintivskaya. It was here that the officers of the Czechoslovak Legion arrested their Russian ally, Admiral Kolchak, on this unremarkable platform. He and his colleagues were locked up in this small house and were then handed over to the revolutionaries. In this way, they were given safe passage to the port of Vladivostok so they could sail home.
The Czechoslovaks surrendered Kolchak to centrist revolutionaries in Irkutsk. They wanted to have him put on trial. But with the arrival of the Bolsheviks, they deposed the centrists, arrested Kolchak, and executed him.
Having played their part in the execution of Admiral Kolchak, the Czechoslovak legionnaires resumed their journey in the direction of the port of Vladivostok. Now the question is, where did the gold go, and why are they looking for it in Lake Baikal? Historian Alexander Tivinenko and writer Ivan Pulayev have lived in the Baikal area their whole lives. They are sure that quite a sizable part of Kolchak's gold ended up in the lake after one of the trains crashed here. That eastbound train was moving along the Krugo-Baikal Railway. What sort of train was it, and where was it carrying that gold to? According to Alexander Tivinenko's theory, the answers lie in a contract made between the Czechoslovak legionnaires and the Bolsheviks, the Kutin Agreement.
According to the Kutin Agreement, half of Russia's gold reserve that the legionnaires seized from Kolchak was to be handed over to the Bolsheviks, while the legionnaires kept the other half. As a result, Russia acquired 13 carriages, and the Czechoslovaks took 17.
The Czech historian disagrees with the theory of his Russian counterpart.
A truce agreement was signed at Kutin station. As a result of that truce, the Russian gold reserve was handed over to the Bolshevik government led by Lenin. This means that the treasure was in the state that it had been while in Kolchak's custody, with the exception of the 13 crates that had disappeared at Tirit station.
Alexander Tivinenko and Ivan Pulayev have covered the distance several times before, 120 kilometers. It's a 5-hour journey by service locomotive. They are looking for evidence that the golden train controlled by the Czechoslovaks did indeed crash.
After the agreement had been signed, the Czechoslovaks headed on eastwards, with the gold quite unimpeded. However, it turned out Lenin had sent a telegram ahead to local followers in Irkutsk at the last moment. And in it, His message was blunt: blow up the tunnels and bridges and tear up the tracks. Not a single gram of the gold was to be allowed to go any further east.
The Kruger-Baikal Railway is one of the world's most dangerous routes. On one side there are sheer cliffs. Lake Baikal is on the other. There are frequent rock slides here. This enormous piece of rock sticking out of the lake might have been what caused the crash. The driver of that steam locomotive told Ivan Pulayev about it when Ivan was still a young man. According to the driver, the rock fragment crashed into the train just when the locomotive had entered the tunnel.
Some of the train cars remained on the tracks. Others fell in the direction of Baikal. One of the carriages was on the bank after being ripped apart. Crates were taken out of it.
In the summer of 2009, Alexei Tivanenko and other scientists started their descent to the bed of Lake Baikal on board a mere deep-sea submersible from here. At a depth of 1,400 meters, they found wrecked carriages and a host of objects resembling crates. This picture shows them in great detail. Chances are those crates were filled with gold.
Unconfirmed reports indicate that several trains carried the gold. The location of the carriages and the metal crates that were so heavy they couldn't be moved coincides with the crash site.
People in submersibles have only been able to examine the lake bed. Dragging up heavy objects would require an altogether different vessel.
If the search for Kolchak's gold is put on a strictly scientific basis, success may be achieved.
Tyumen, the eastbound train carrying the gold reserve bypassed this Siberian city. However, it is in this building that a trace of the so-called Siberian share of Kolchak's gold was found in 1991. The building used to house the local branch of the Soviet KGB. Today it belongs to Russia's Federal Security Service. Back then, Alexander Petrushin of the KGB was looking through secret archives dating from the Civil War when he came across a document pertaining to the 1920s. It contained a description of the medals stamped before Kolchak came to power. The new medals bore the inscription, "Liberation of Siberia."
Kolchak knew the medals had already been stamped. More than that, they were made of precious metals. He ordered them to be added to his gold reserve. That is to say, Russia's gold reserve. He said it should be kept in church basements in Tobolsk. Other additions included church ornaments and possibly valuables belonging to the family of former Russian Emperor.
There are 2,000 kilometers between Moscow and Tobolsk. Tobolsk is a historical Russian city. It was founded in the 16th century, and it used to be the capital of Siberia. Where then was the Siberian portion of Kolchak's gold kept, and where did it end up? There are many monasteries and churches around Tobolsk. According to Alexander Petrushin's theory, the Siberian portion of Kolchak's gold was hidden in one of them. The Abalak monastery is several kilometers from Tobolsk. During the Civil War, Archbishop Irenak of Tobolsk had one of his residencies here.
Some of the church valuables and valuables belonging to the Siberian White Movement were kept here in the Abalak monastery. It is now being restored. Have you found a lot of metal?
Yes, we have lots of.
I found this quite intriguing. There is a lot of metal here, because insurgents taking part in the 1921 peasant revolt were executed here by this wall. One finds gold, gems, and human bones here, all in one place.
Colonel Alexander Petrushin of the Federal Security Service, now retired, has spent a good deal of time in search of Kolchak's gold. His job gave him access to secret archives and transcripts of interrogations relating to Archbishop Irenak of Tobolsk. According to his testimony, when the Red Army was approaching Tobolsk in August 1919, Kolchak had ordered them.